Hail and welcome to Witching Out Loud, the podcast where we celebrate the art of witchcraft and conjuring magic in your daily life. Join us for a cozy chat about witchy ways and practical woo-woo.
I'm Crystal with Unveiled, necromancer, spiritual trainer, and mentor.
And I'm Kate, priestess for hire and an intuitive tarot reader.
Sunshine is a trailblazing psychic medium, soul healer, spiritual advisor, high priestess, Reiki master, author, podcast and radio show host, as well as a recovering alcoholic. Known affectionately as the pink-haired sober witch, her mission is to help witches in recovery rediscover their magic, align with their highest purpose, and live the abundant life promised in sobriety. I'm going to start us off with an amazing poem I found with author unknown. I am enough. I am enough to make it through the night. I am enough to make it through the day. No matter my struggles, and I have many struggles, I know I'll be okay. I don't give in. I believe and have faith I am enough. You are enough to make it through anything. You are enough to live through anything. You don't have to be perfect, and it doesn't matter if you're smart. Just open your eyes and open your heart. Find the strength and peace that we have inside our chests. Believe that it will stay there until your very last breath. You are enough. We are enough to make it through the highs and make it through the lows. We are enough to make it through the dark sky and the nights when tears fly. Don't give up. I promise you it gets better and our dreams come true. We are enough. I am enough to make it through drugs, heartbreak, and pain. I am enough to make it through the cold and pouring rain. I am enough to make it through anything with you, my friend. I am enough to make it because this is only the beginning. It isn't the end. Thought that was so beautiful. Welcome to the Witching Out Loud podcast, Sunshine.
Well, that was gorgeous. I love some poetry or music that has affirmations built into it. That to me is some of the most potent kind of art that you can really do, this beautiful magical art. Well, Crystal, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited for our conversation. Yeah.
Me too. I was so happy I opened the email. It was one of these emails that I thought, is this a scam? And then I went and found your website and I'm like, this isn't a scam. And she looks awesome. Yes, let's put her on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, totally not a scam.
But tell us about yourself and introduce yourself to the Witching Out Loud crowd.
Yeah, I know the title of the episode is Sober Witchcraft. I think that tells a lot. I have been a practicing witch since I was around 16 years old. And I even have some of the books that I bought back then still. I was raised Catholic. There was all sorts of just discomfort in that world. There weren't answers. That's really what it was. I would ask these questions and my teachers or the nuns or the priests, they would just dismiss me. And so I started to seek answers myself and found myself in a metaphysical store around the age of 16 and felt like I was home for the first time. Like I had a place where I could find some answers. Maybe it wasn't the people there, but there were a lot of books, right? There were a lot of books. And so I started to read. I'll age myself. That would have been 1996. So the internet was not really a thing back then like it is today. But I did start to seek out. I would try to find information. I don't even remember if they were called on Yahoo way back then, but you could join local groups. So I started joining local pagan groups and just all of these things. And started to call myself a witch, but really, I don't think I started to live the path of the witch as truly being my spiritual path and being aligned with like my personal beliefs and philosophies until I decided to get sober at the age of 40. Yeah. So it was a long
Oh,
time between first
quite a
being introduced to
transition.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. And don't get me wrong, like the house that I live in right now, I would not have if it were not for a spell. And that was in 2011. There's other jobs, there's other things throughout my life that I would do spells for, or spells for other people. I've read tarot pretty much since that time, but never to the level of it being ingrained in my day-to-day life and so key and foundational to something so important to me as my own sobriety.
Well, how, like when I think of that transition, that kind of liminal space that you went through, how was your craft kind of changed from this, drinking witch to sober
Mm.
witch? Like, what differences did you notice in your magical life?
Yeah. It's a really interesting question, and I don't know that I've looked at it. Yeah, so bear with me because I'm kind of like going through memories right now, um, and listening to spirit. Like I said to you before, my magic before was much more reactive. When I needed something, that's when I would pull out a spell. And early on, like when I was 16, 17, 18, I would still look at spell books, right? I would still pull up spell books. But around my early to mid 20s, I didn't. Like if I were to conduct a spell at that particular point moving forward, I was writing it, right? So I was still like very much ingrained in and had this like innate understanding that my magic was so personal that it was more important for me to put in the time and the energy and effort to making and crafting a ritual and then performing it rather than just pulling out like a recipe, so to speak. And not knocking any. There's some really, really phenomenal spells that I've come across and that I'd still recommend to this day. But yeah, it was very reactive. It was when I needed it. And when I stepped into my sobriety, one of the biggest things that started to shift and change to me, and I'd started talking to spirit more frequently around the end of 2017, even before I got sober. And I do think that this is a big reason why it became so important, like why the nudges to get sober became so strong and potent, is because the moment I stopped, it's like the floodgates opened, right? My psychic gifts just became like they were supercharged, right? Everything became like razzle dazzled, like so much to the point that it was hard even to be in space with other people because I felt like I was this gigantic antenna that was just receiving everything. And the like beautiful thing about that is I've now realized after literally working the psychic medium circuit for almost 4 years and talking to so many people, so many people, it is so common for folks that are highly psychic, naturally psychic, to have chosen a path of numbing at some point in
Hmm.
their life, whether that's through drugs, alcohol, or some other like drama chaos, right? We will often become addicted to drama just to dampen, or even the codependency. I'll become so addicted to somebody else, right? So that I don't have to pay attention to anything else that's coming through.
I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with that. I talk about that a lot in trauma informed space. And I think that's why we see so much alcohol, drugs around spiritual space. I know I can speak for my own. Like, that's what I use wine for sure. I'm like, I just need all the voices to shut up now. Like, I need everything to just go, whoo, right? And I stopped drinking for 3 years and it was so much. And I 100% agree with you. I didn't really want to be out in public. I didn't want to be with people. I'm like, this is so much energy and so much data I can't process. Like I just have to be at home in my garden in the quiet. Of course, now I've learned some more skills on how to dampen that instead of needing wine to do it. But I think that's absolutely a great point.
To that point, like if nobody's there to ever teach you to do that, right? I've been drinking since I was a child. I've been drinking since I was 8 years old, right? Not like 17, 18, 8 years old.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so I go and I look back at how often I was using that to not just regulate, because for the trauma informed says using it to regulate the nervous system. Well, my nervous system was so frazzled because I was picking up from everything, even beyond myself. Yeah, so that's a lot of how it has changed. Is not now it is so incorporated into my day-to-day life. And don't get me wrong, like I still don't like big, huge social settings. Like people are like, hey, you want to go somewhere tonight? And I'm like, no, you got to give me like a week's notice because I got to like prep for it. Me and Spirit got to have a conversation. We're like, is this good? Is this okay? Right? Like, come on. Like, don't drop me. Okay, you want to ask me to a park last minute? Let's go. But like a concert or a social event or something.
You want to just go pop to the crystal shop? Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that one's good. Go to a garden, go to the plant store. Oh, lovely. But yeah, take me somewhere there's a bunch of people. So tough.
It's a no for me.
I know
People
who
are
I
like,
am.
don't you get lonely? No.
Nope. No. Like, have you seen all the spirits hanging out with me? How could I get lonely? I'm like,
Exactly.
Loneliness does not happen at all, right?
True. Well, what are some of the things that you use instead of that numbing or escapism?
Early on, it was a lot of meditation, right? I had to start. And so even though I let go of alcohol in 2019 and 2017, as I kind of mentioned, when I started to talk to spirit more, I left a very abusive corporate experience. And I was so burnt out. I had nothing lined up. I just basically gave them my resignation letter and was just like, peace out. I'd been there like 12 years. I was like, I got to go. And so I would wake up every morning and I would do what's referred to as yin yoga. I don't know if you're familiar with yin yoga. For any of the listeners that are not, it's a very supportive, it's very slow. You move into a particular position, a yoga position, and you will hold it for 5 to 7 minutes. Less maybe sometimes, but usually it was 5 to 7 minutes. And it's meant to help release the fascia, right? And so that in and of itself starts to release a lot of like emotion within us. Like there were times that I would just cry. I would be sitting in a pose and just start crying. And then I would lay there afterwards in Shavasana for like 20 minutes, just meditating. And that was a really big deal. That was the really big deal that started. Right. And I think that's what allowed me to start to hear spirit saying, like, the alcohol is no good for you. This is not serving you anymore. And then I fought it. I mean, I was a gnarly person towards the end when it came to my drinking. It got, as far as like tarot goes, the Tower card has always symboled to me, to a lot of people, it's scary, but to me, it's a reminder that we get to make choices in our lives to take and tear things down in order to rebuild. And if we don't, the universe will do it for us, right? And so it started to take me down that path where it started to destroy things because I wasn't willing to let go of the alcohol. So it basically said, well, let's show you what this is going to look like.
Oof.
Right?
I talk about it like the universe whispers, talks, and screams. So if you don't listen to the whisper, you get the talking. And when it gets to the screaming, it's not fun for anybody.
No. It was gnarly. Like I said, it was almost 2 whole years from that point on. And so I had to quit. I turned into what I say is a grade 8 bona fide see you next Tuesday on my final relapse. I mean, I was just the most wickedly nasty person that I've ever known in my whole life, right? Like that version of me is one I never, ever want to know again. And so I stopped, and the tears, I think I cried for like, I don't know, 3 months, like almost probably daily. And learning how not numb meant I had to learn how to feel first. That's really it, right? Like I had to learn how to feel. I had to learn how to cry. I had to learn how to sit in the mess. I had to learn how to just be okay being miserable, right? Like life is beautiful, but that beauty can also look like a shitstorm too. And I had to be willing to do that. And that's what I did in the very beginning. There's just no way around it. There's no way. And people will try to find a way. They'll start scrolling on social media. They will start cleaning their house a whole bunch. They will just dive into work. There's this person, and bless her, I've connected her on social media, and she like dove into fitness to the point that she's like a muscle builder, right? It's a blessing. It's keeping her away from the hard drugs that she was using. But in the same breath, I'm just like, this is the exchange, right? You're exchanging one extreme to something else. And it's a beautiful thing that it's healthier for your body, but is it healthier for your soul? Is it?
I was just going to ask, were there any magical practices outside of the meditation that you did to help you move through those feelings?
I think tears are very magical.
Yes,
I
they are.
really do. And so that was really the biggest first part, was just allowing myself to like feel and witness the tears. This is the body's way of releasing something. But the second thing was, as I said, the gifts just lit up. And so I did step into AA to start. I stepped into a 12-step program. I did 90 meetings in 90 days, and I was probably about 2.5 weeks into meetings. And I watched my grandfather sit down at the table with me, who had been deceased for about 12 years. And so I started to talk to him a lot. And I realized that my grandfather, who I knew, but did not put it together until this point, my grandfather came into our life because of the 12-step program. The 12th step in a traditional 12-step program is to go out and to help other individuals, other alcoholics, other addicts. My grandfather was called, his name was Hugh. He had a buddy of his call him up and said, Hugh, there's a young man at the jail and he's really having a hard time and he could use some help. So my grandfather went and picked up my uncle from jail, brought him back to my grandmother's house, and that's how he met my grandmother. It was through a 12-step. So I realized at that point that I had somebody on the other side that had been there, that had navigated it, that I could lean on, that I could find some strength in. And I started talking to spirit more, right?
That's
And
beautiful.
that to me was probably the biggest magical practice that started, was really starting to trust the conversations that I was having with spirit, the things I was starting to feel, the intuitions, the insight, the hits. I still to this day will tell people that the day I start second guessing my own intuition and my own psychic gifts is the day I'm a step closer to a relapse.
Well,
Yeah.
that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to stay grounded in that, stay grounded in your gifts?
Well, it's two different. What do I do to stay grounded versus what do I do to stay grounded in into my gifts? I have a lot of humbleness around this particular gift, right? I remember one of the things after I'd finished 90 meetings in 90 days is I had to take a step back and I had to say, okay, well, now what's my church? Because I can't do a meeting every day for the rest of my life. I'm like, this is just not going to cut it, right? So I had to figure out what I was going to do. How was I going to stay aligned with my truth and my work? And I started to pull cards every single day. So I started to create a ritual at that particular point. And that I think really helped me to stay grounded in my own recovery from that point. As far as like staying grounded in my gifts, that humbleness of starting to know and understand. And I've learned lessons along the way that sometimes if it's spirits on the other side, like your ancestors and loved ones, they can sometimes be a bit biased. And also, really, that at the end of the day, they're there to provide the guidance and the protection, but I'm still the one responsible, right? Like when we close up our recovery circles, we give thanks to all the gods, the goddesses, the angels, the ancestors, the elementals, the ascended masters, or any of the etheric beings that surround, guide, and protect us every day. We know it is our own individual responsibility to take the actions that we need to in life, but we're grateful for that guidance and protection. That to me is how to stay grounded. That's how I stay grounded in the gifts, is like, I'm the one that still has to live it.
Right.
So that to me is probably the biggest way to stay, is to remember that I'm still here and accountable.
I love that you shared that, because I think a lot of people take the kind of Christian practice of giving it all over to God and bring that into the witchcraft space. What kind of deprogramming did you have to do coming from Catholicism and then into witchcraft to be able to come into that space of I'm the one in charge and I have the direct connection?
It's interesting you even say that, because a lot of the religious constructs don't even say, they bypass that direct connection to a priest, a deacon, some other type of hierarchy. And so the very first thing is, like, in my 20s, I had a really hard time with the church. I had a really, really hard time. I mean, I would go into a church for whatever family thing, wedding, funeral, whatever it was. And I would end up in tears, right? Because I was just so hurt. I would sit there and I would look around. And I remember there was a partner at the time, and we were in New York City, and his sister was having her first communion. And we go to walk into this church, and the church is surrounded by maybe 10-foot tall fences with barbed wire on the top, right? The whole church and its parking lot. And there are homeless people outside of the fence begging. And I walk in this church and I see it's all marble and all gold. And I had to walk right back out. And I said, I'll wait in the car for you. I can't do this, because it just horrified me. So I had to have a lot of conversations just with myself and deconstruct that piece, that was not the divine. The church was not the divine, right? The priest is not the divine, right? And so I came to a realization in my late 20s and in early 30s, and really just started to understand at that point that it was faith. That is the reason people need faith. They need hope. And that's why they turn to church. That's why they turn to a religion, is because they don't know how to seek it otherwise. Nobody teaches them that. Even though I went through Catholic school, they never taught me how to have faith and connection with the divine. They taught me the history of the church. They taught me how to follow the rituals that they wanted me to follow. In my early 20s and 30s, I started to understand that. So when here I am sober, I didn't have all of that I was kind of like carrying. Like, I'd already come to understand that it was up to me to have that relationship with whatever it is that I wanted to have a relationship with. But it took a lot of conversation, and it took a lot of courage, because we do not live in a society that is openly friendly towards people that don't practice an organized religion. And I say that whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian, or whether you're Muslim, right? You're any of those, there's still hate that gets thrown in between all of that. But at least people don't, they understand, right? But you start saying that you're a witch, you start saying, even if you're Buddhist, right? Well, this beautiful Eastern spiritual path that has some very, very similar teachings to Christianity, they still are like, well, we had that weird newfangled stuff. So I deconstructed a lot of that. So when the time came, I don't want to say I was a blank slate, but I was someone that knew my faith and my beliefs were mine to create.
I love that phrase. They're mine to create. That's witchcraft in a nutshell, isn't it? My beliefs, my faith, my hope, my love, my joys, they're mine to create. Yeah. Love that. Tell us a little bit about you talked about circles. So do you host like sobriety circles and things of that nature? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I've been sober since late 2019. And when I stepped in, one of the things that I started to do is pulling cards. And I started to like really strengthen my own psychic gifts. So when I say that I traveled the like psychic medium circle for about 4 years, I was doing a lot of fairs and I had private clients and all this great stuff. I still love it, love and adore it very, very much. It's a beautiful gift that I was given, and I will share it until my last breath. And I had left my corporate job just over 2 years ago. It was like April 2 years ago, with every intention of being the professional psychic and teaching people how to do their psychic gifts. That was my whole intention. And I'd been out of work about 2.5 weeks. So I say I'm a recovering alcoholic, workaholic, perfectionist, and control freak. And I'm out like 2.5 weeks, and I was supposed to take those 2 weeks and just do nothing. And I'm like 2 weeks, and I look back at my calendar, and I had like jam-packed my whole calendar. I didn't take time off. I just shoved a bunch of other things into it, and I like bawled. I was like crying. And I remember sitting there and I was like, how did I do this? Why did I do this? And I sat in meditation, and Spirit said, are you ready? And I said, for what? And they said, you're going to teach other sober witches. Like, that's what you're here to do. You're not all this other shit you thought you were going to do that you just spent 2 years building while you worked a corporate job, right? Not all that stuff, by the way. This is what you're going to do. So I was like, okay, well, if you say so. Now, mind you, I go back to that. I had a choice, right? But I knew in my heart of hearts that everything that I'd been working towards, like your eyes starts to open when you start living in alignment with the universe, right? Even when it throws you a curveball like this, you're like, you're right. I will go ahead and I'll tower everything else. I'll tear the rest of that shit down we just built, but you're right. And so by September of that year, so this would have been 2024, I spent some time in the summer just gardening. I really did. I spent some time just allowing myself to heal. I spent some time unraveling, having conversations with clients and saying like this isn't my path anymore. And so by September, we had started up our very first witches recovery circle on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, and as of the beginning of this year, we had had over 1,000 witches sign up for that circle. Now, not all of them show up. That's the reality of it. In case you didn't know this, addicts are one of the most flakiest people that you eat. It's just, please don't hold it against us. There's a lot going on. We are often trying to just like live, like just try to do things day by day, one day at a time. And yeah, so we've had over 1,000 witches that have signed up. Last June, we made the decision to introduce a second. So as of next month, we will have hosted 2 witches recovery circles every week. Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern and Fridays at noon Eastern. We're partnered with 2 different recovery community organizations here within the Metro Detroit area, which is where I'm at. So we do events there, both circles as well as I host a ritual around each of the pagan holidays. And my partner, who is also in recovery and his own witchy self, hosts a creative alchemy for recovery once a month as well. And so those are just what we do in person. But yeah, we very intentionally call them recovery circles, not sobriety circles. And the reason why is nothing like this exists for witches. Nothing like this exists at all. And so when I sat with spirit over a year ago to really understand what the vision and the path was that I was meant to go down, it became very clear that the emphasis was on recovery, not just sobriety. Because people are not just recovering from in just trying to stay sober. There are people that are recovering from trauma. There are people that are recovering from codependent relationships. There are people that are recovering just from self-abandonment. They've just never been in a position to be who they really want to be in their life, right? And so when people are not given that opportunity to recover from trauma, codependency, or that self-abandonment, it'll often lead them to the
Yeah,
substance.
that's so lovely.
So why am I going to wait until they're a substance addict?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Go up pipeline. That's
Yep.
brilliant, Sunshine. I love how inclusive that is.
I adore it very much. And I know there are so many individuals that have joined us that are even struggling with their own food addiction, their own trauma. And I'll tell you this too. There's a reason I say witch and not pagan, because there is a thing called pagans in recovery. Okay. And it's decent around. Like you could probably find it like one little instance, maybe in every other state or so like that. But not every witch is pagan. Because of my Catholic upbringing, find there are a lot of Christian witches that navigate towards me. Because I still love Jesus. Me and Jesus are like, we're good. I love him. I have so much love for his teachings. He is an ascended master through and through and deserves to be honored and respected like any of the ascended masters that are out there for his brilliance, his knowledge, and the magic that he performed while he was here, right? So, yeah, so we intentionally choose the word witch and recovery rather than pagan and sobriety.
I love it. You said you do stuff online as well. So how do people who aren't in the Detroit metro area connect with you?
Yeah. So the best thing if you want to look into anything is you can visit www.soberwitch.life. That pretty much will give you access to anything that's going on. But we started this all online to start. And this is a very intentional choice. As we were talking about, like you start getting sober and all of that energetic becomes a lot. It could be very nerve-wracking to walk into a room, right? And so everything that we do is available online. The only thing that I host only in person is the pagan holiday rituals. It's just really hard to hold a formal ritual. I do some of them online, but it's a lot harder to do them, especially when we have like craft and stuff with it. So we have what we refer to as the recovery coven. And so the circles are included in the recovery coven. We do 2 sessions every month for psychic development, which is like I lead those. And some of the most profound work that I've seen with the people that I've worked with is watching them gain the confidence that they need to truly trust their intuition, trust their connection to the divine in a way that they just never thought was possible beforehand.
Well, and I think that's something we don't talk about enough in the addiction and sobriety space in general is how much you lose trust in yourself and how hard that is to rebuild. Because when you keep breaking trust and saying, I won't have another drink or I won't smoke another bowl, like whatever that is, and you continue to break those promises with yourself, it's really hard to
Yeah.
start trusting your own intuition again.
Well, to your point, it's not just even the own intuition, it's just trusting oneself. And addiction is there's a reason, and I don't know if you've talked about like any type of demonology or anything on the show, but there is a demon that is associated with addiction, right? His name is Bilal. He is known for being.
We haven't talked about that.
Yeah. And so the truth and the reality is, as human beings, we are given the option to like we are given choice. And so I made this realization a long time ago when I first stepped into recovery. And oddly enough, my partner and I did not know each other when we were addicts, right? We were both sober about a year and a half or so when we met. And so we had both, this was like the kind of the like weird synchronicity, had personified addiction. We called it our addiction demon. Like we could see and understand that there was this energetic that was out there that really did not have our best interest in mind. And it would continue to tempt us and, come on, because it doesn't care. It just wants to see what you're going to do, right? That's like
Right?
the devil card in tarot. The devil card in tarot is not a bad card. It just says, hey, as a human being, you were given choice. What are you going to choose? Right? Like,
I like the idea of, I hadn't thought of that before, of looking at it as here's this demon entity because there's some power in being able to externalize it a little bit. And I think that helps you alchemize that addiction and that need for it to externalize it a little bit.
100%. So to the point that it was probably one of my strongest things. Like I was probably about 2 months in when I started to see him. I started to like witness him, right? Like showing up, like literally in the mind's eye, started to see him. And I think it was a really big part of me being able to continue to stay sober and to recognize like I was never going to let him win. That was my determination. Like you will not have this power over me. Right? I am my own self. I get to choose this path, not you. And I mean, I've seen it. I've seen addiction show up like that on people. I've seen it show up as attachment on people, like a literal attachment. I've seen other people's addiction show up on someone in another way, right? I've seen generational addiction. And so this is why I'm here to do this work. This is why, right? And the reality is I can come in and exercise a demon. I can come in and take an attachment off. But if an individual themselves have not accepted their sovereign path of being responsible, like we said, responsible for their actions, right? Responsible for cleaning their own house and not allowing the devil to tempt them, so to speak, to make that choice that they know is not aligned with their highest and best path. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what I exercise.
No.
It doesn't
They
matter.
just
Yeah.
recreate that attachment. They just
Yeah.
invite them back in the house.
Yep.
Yeah, well said. Well, what are you working on now that lights you up and gets you fired up?
One of the things that I want to be able to do with the nonprofit. So I did start a nonprofit. We incorporated last October. We are incorporated as a religious nonprofit recognized by the federal government as such, which I know scares some people like, oh, religion. But the reality is there is religious protection here in the United States. And if our recovery is so tied to these practices of witchcraft, you better damn well believe I'm going to make sure that those practices are protected. And so one of the things that I want to make sure that we are doing is in-person retreats. So the thing that really has me fired up the most right now is we just wrapped up in March. So it had been just about 2 months ago, our very first Sober Witches retreat down in New Orleans. And so we perform the 13th step of the witches' steps to recovery is to perform ritual to help heal the world of addiction. We craft it and put it together, right? Like while as part of the whole retreat. But
Lovely.
then, yeah, in October, we are doing Sober Witch Camp. And so there are a lot of folks as they step into recovery that struggle with their worthiness of like joy and fun and play. Right?
Yes.
We get into this perfectionism, this workaholism, this people pleasing. And so Sober Witch Camp is all 100% around play. And so that one's really lighting me up. I'll be hopefully starting to announce it here in the next couple of weeks, putting together a 3-day little workshop to introduce people to the activation of joy and introducing the sober witch camp. But I've had a lot of fun because we're doing it, little sneak preview. We're doing it as like some campfire goblin stories. Yeah, so I'm quite a child. Like that's the reality of it. As like I don't know, 7-year-old deep down. I love fart jokes.
There's
That's
not
what's
enough
been
whimsy and joy in the world, so I love that you're incorporating that into practice.
correct. So we will be playing that whole weekend. There's a Girl Scout camp here in Michigan, and we've rented 2 lodges, and there'll be bunk beds, and we'll have like good camp food. My partner's a professional chef, so he will
Nice.
make sure that we are all well fed for the weekend. And it's just going to be a whole weekend of play. And I'm really, really looking forward to
Nice.
that one.
Where are you hosting that at?
It'll be in Southwest Michigan, just south of like Lansing.
Fantastic. There was another thing that I saw when I was looking at all of your sites. Like you built an app.
Yeah, I did. If you search for Sober Witch on like Google Play or Apple, the iOS store, you can still find it. And there's some of the basic stuff, but will still lead you over to where our community is housed. They had a lot of promises that they made of what they were going to have available, and it just fell flat. And I had some major bugs. Like I literally had been working with them to fix like 2 or 3 really big issues, and they could not pinpoint what it was. And so I did walk away. But yeah, we launched that like I think it'll be 3 years ago this fall. And so it'll always be there as long as I can manage to keep it up. But we moved over. I'm sure some of your listeners are familiar because they've done some huge marketing in the last couple of months, but the school platform.
No, I'm on school too. Yay, I'll go connect with you.
Yeah. So you can find the Recovery Coven on there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love school. It's a great platform. Lots of great communities there.
Oh, yeah. 100%. And everything that we were struggling with the mobile app and the company that was helping to build that, they've not like the school platform knocked it out of the park. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, yeah, go find her on school. Anything else you want to share about your work, what you're doing, or a witch tip you'd like to share with the group?
I'll share this one because it pops into my mind, and it's how spirit love to work. A lot of people always will ask like what we can do magic wise. What can I do magic wise? I'm struggling with addiction. Or the other one is, I've got somebody that I love that's struggling with addiction. And so from a witchy magical tip, the thing that I can recommend the most is spell work around courage, because it takes a lot of courage to make a change in your life that's going to leave something behind that may have brought you comfort, may have been deeply rooted into your identity, right? It was deeply rooted into my identity. Like you have to have a lot of courage. So spell work around courage, solar plexus work, solar plexus healing, stone wise, right? Any of those yellow stones, you could use some citrine. That'll be really good. A tiger's eye will also be really helpful around both that sacral and the solar plexus. And then the other piece too is within the addiction community. If you know somebody is on that path and you are looking maybe for a gift, amethyst is one of the most well-known addiction stones that there are. It's a healing stone as it is, but it's known in the recovery community, even outside of the witch. I've seen it pop up. So yeah, that would be my tip for folks.
That reminds me, I have a spell. I have a piece of onyx that is on a string. And when I'm feeling overwhelmed with my emotions, so mine's more around trauma than addiction, but the same rules apply. And when it starts to feel too much, then I whisper it into the stone and let it capture it until I can deal with it. Because sometimes we just have to set it aside. And that helps me a lot when I start to just get too much.
That's a really lovely one. Yeah, I love that.
Well, I have absolutely enjoyed chatting with you, and I can't wait to connect on your community. And I have a couple of witches I've been working with, training them, that I think would really, really benefit from your space. And so hopefully I'll get them connected with you. But thank you for coming to Witching Out Loud, for sharing the joy that you're putting out into the world, the recovery that you're helping people through. I think the work that you're doing is very important. So if there's any way we can support you, we're there.
Thank you so much, Crystal. I appreciate that. And I hope you and all of your listeners have a very beautiful rest of your day and week. And by golly, just have a beautiful life.
You too. Let's go do witchy shit. Thanks for listening to Witching Out Loud. You can find us at Witching Out Loud on Substack, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow us for highlights and reminders. Subscribe for witchy tips, seasonal celebrations, and extended show notes. If you love our show and want to support us further, there's an option to support us monetarily on Substack, as well as sponsorships and advertising opportunities. So please share with us how you are witching out loud. Now go do witchy shit.